Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with ILTV's morning briefing.
The number of coronavirus cases in Israel has now surged past 4,000, with 4,347 Israelis now diagnosed. 80 are now in serious condition, another 81 are in moderate condition, and the rest are exhibiting mild symptoms. 16 have now sadly passed away, and the latest victim was just 58 years old, although he had very significant existing conditions. But the record increase of infections in Israel over the past 24 hours now puts it in 17th place in terms of infection numbers across the world. The most shocking case perhaps across the country is that of a 22-year-old man who's now in serious condition after contracting COVID-19, despite having no pre-existing medical conditions whatsoever. He's currently sedated and hooked up to a ventilator at Asuta Hospital in Ashdod. Now, an advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has also been diagnosed with the coronavirus, raising concerns that the Israeli Prime Minister himself could be exposed. It's likely that the Premier and other aides or lawmakers will need to adhere to the Health Ministry's guidelines and enter a 2-week quarantine. This comes as the Cabinet's discussion on tightening restrictions across the country has been delayed till later today. Ministers had been set to meet last night to consider implementing new regulations of social distancing, and the new rules would have reportedly included keeping all non-essential workers at home, restricting people to within 2 to 3 kilometers to their homes when buying groceries and supplies, and telling supermarkets to allocate special hours for elderly shoppers. The Health Ministry is predicting that public schools are unlikely to resume after the Passover holiday, which ends on April 15th, and that the amount of serious COVID-19 cases in Israel will double by the end of the week. Israel's unemployment rate has now climbed up to a shocking 22.5% on Sunday, up from a record low of 4% prior to the coronavirus outbreak. A total of over 920,000 Israelis are now unemployed, with 90% of them on leave without pay from companies that are struggling to stay afloat amid Israel's strict COVID-19 regulations. The Employment Service is reportedly going to finish processing and handing over the details of the unemployed to the National Insurance Institute so that they can receive benefits before Passover. The Employment Service Director General believes that about 20% of the newly unemployed will not have a job to go back to when the coronavirus crisis finally ends. And right now, salaried workers are covered for up to 75% of their earnings for a limited period of time. But Israel's self-employed workers don't have those same benefits. That's why the Israeli government is working on a package that would give about 175,000 freelancers a grant of up to 6,000 shekels, or $1,675. Yet another rescue flight packed with Israelis who have been stranded abroad has just taken off, and this time from Nigeria. 206 Israelis are on their way home from the African nation after the Israeli embassy in Nigeria cut a deal with the African airline Air Peace to get them home. Many of those on the flight were left stranded after the closure of airports in Nigeria and its neighboring countries. And this rescue flight stands out because it will be flying above Chad, Sudan, and Egypt in the shortest route possible to Israel. And it's going to be completely disregarding security concerns that are normally relevant when flying above these countries. Air Peace Airlines had planned to start direct commercial flights from Nigeria to Israel starting in March this year, but had to change plans after the coronavirus outbreak. This latest rescue flight comes after El Al picked up a group of 150 stranded Israelis in Costa Rica on Friday who had been traveling in South America. The cremation of a Jewish man in Argentina who had contracted the coronavirus has caused an uproar this week in the Jewish community because cremation of the dead is not allowed under mainstream religious Jewish law. Authorities claim cremation is the best practice to avoid further spread of the disease, which has stirred controversy within Jewish communities worldwide. But now, a leading Orthodox rabbi has ruled that Jews in Europe must embrace cremation if their governments require it, and can even consider it a posthumous mitzvah on the part of the deceased. Rabbi Kenneth Brander is the dean of the Israeli Old Torah Stone Network of Institutions, and he says that the highest honor that a person who is not alive can achieve, according to Judaism, is helping the living. So even though Judaism normally views cremation as a sacrilege, it would be seen as a means through which the deceased is posthumously fighting against the deadly coronavirus.
That's all for now. I'm Natasha Kirchak, and see you later with our main daily broadcast.